All right, welcome back here to the Xfinity Sports Report, your Colorado High School connection. Brian Roth back with you. Again, we saw all the highlights. Championship games time to break down with Neil Devlin of the Denver Post. Neil, how are you? Looking a little tired. I know it's been a long 3 days.
A long 3 days.
Up in Boulder, of course, the last 3 days, taking up new residents there. But always a fun 3 days as well. We'll break down the 4A and 5A boys and girls state championship games in just a moment. But always like to show some love to some of the smaller classifications here. So take a look at the state champions of the 1A and 2A levels. And in 1A, Fleming beats Shining Mountain Wildcats. Well, lost in the state championship game last year by a point. They get the victory here this year. And then Idalia over Briggsdale. Second straight state title for the Wolves on the girls' side. 2A, how about Sanford? They beat Res Christian to go 27-0. Third straight state title. They have won 73 consecutive games, tying a state record. And then Yuma over Paonia on the girls' side. That's a Yuma team that lost the previous 3 state championship games, but they are able to get that one. So again, congratulations to all the state champions. How about Sanford? 73 consecutive wins. I mean, how incredible is that?
Very. It ties a state record.
Yeah.
And think about it, you know, they have an opener next year, they win, they set a state record. Pretty good for an opener.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about that. All right, let's talk about the 4A girls. We'll start there. Valor Christian able to get the win over Evergreen in a pair of 4A Jefferson County League teams. Neil, that's a Valor Christian team that lost 5 seniors off last year's team, including a couple of all-staters, yet Jessica Caldwell had them right back, raising the trophy once again.
Yeah, and they did it in a different style too. A year ago, they had like a star and filled in around her. This year, I think they were all pretty even. It was more of a team-type situation, and to go back-to-back is pretty good. 16
state championships now for Valor Christian. That's overall. 5th girls state championship, and school's only been around, Neil, for not even 10 years.
Yeah, and well, I mean, they have like the pick of the litter, so to speak, and they get it, and that's cool. And I'm a parochial school guy and everything. The one thing, though, I think everybody agrees is that, you know, a school like Valor probably is questionable playing, you know, anything less than 5A in any sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, you see the girls team 4A state championship game. The boys team also in the 4A state championship game as well, but they were not as fortunate. Pueblo West knocking off Valor Christian. Hit the rewind button, I guess, from Friday night. How about Valor Christian's come from behind win against Longmont?
Yeah, they were losing by 14. It didn't look good, but you got the feeling, sitting there watching the game, that if they had a little bit of a run just to get a spark, you had the sense that, hey, we're only down 6 or we're only down 3. And that's exactly what happened. I asked all the kids and the coach after the game. They agreed. They had the same sense that, you know, if they could just get something going, they could ride it out. And they did, and against a very good Longmont team and Justinian Jessup.
Yeah, Jessup, who has capped off a remarkable career up there at Longmont. So they get to come from behind win on Friday night, going into the championship game against Pueblo West. I mean, maybe they kind of used all their energy because they came out a little bit flat. Pueblo West dominated that game from the start.
Or maybe Pueblo West was pretty good and played well at the right time in the tournament. One of the great things about 4A is that it touches all areas. It's the first class that really does that. It touches all areas of the state. Pueblo is like maybe the last high school sports town, you know, great one that we have. They're into it down there. They support their kids. They all play and they all win. They do really well.
Yeah, it was a fun league to watch all season as well down there in that 4A South Central. Of course, you had Pueblo Central with Mike Ranson, who is one of the all-time great scorers in the state of Colorado. Then you had Pueblo South. It's always fun to see those Pueblo teams do well, isn't it?
Yeah, up and down the board and across the board. They just do something where, you know, they have a college, you know, or so in the area, but they don't have any professional sports. This is it for those guys, and it's cool. They realize that, and they just get into it.
Yeah, right. I mean, you've been down to many of those Bell games, the Cannon games, and the sport of football.
Wish we had them up here.
Yeah.
Especially the crowds.
Yeah, absolutely. The crowds aren't even close. I mean, you look at what they can do down there at Dutch Clark Stadium in the sport of football, and the basketball crowds are always very, very big. And the success of Pueblo teams, though, you look at Pueblo East winning another state championship in 3A football, Pueblo County dominating 4A wrestling, and now Pueblo West getting the victory, first ever state championship for the Cyclones in boys basketball. How about David Semental? I mean, he was terrific, had many big games this year, had 27 against Vista Ridge in the semifinal, followed up with 27 again in the championship.
And an excellent free throw shooter. I mean, and he made a lot of them at the end of both of the games to ensure the leads and everything. The only thing about Pueblo for me is that I think it's sad that, you know, we've lost a 5A element down there. we used to have it when we were just had a 4A system, and it was cool. The Denver area teams playing the Pueblo schools and everything like that. I mean, that was a long time ago, 30 years or whatever, but I lament the fact that they're not among the big schools because I think they would bring something with them to those.
Yeah. Again, congratulations to Pueblo West taking down the state championship against a Valor Christian. But hey, let's say this. Valor Christian, top 6 scores, all juniors or sophomores here this year. The Eagles are going to be back, and then, of course, I think we all agree they have a pretty good coach there in Troy Buckner.
Yeah, he did a great job coming up from Devlin, taking them to the championship game. And one thing, with Dylan McCaffrey being on the team and everything like that, did you notice at the end of the first half, they were going to inbound the ball with like a few seconds to go, go to length of the court, and I was hoping he was going to throw some bullet pass down the court to show everybody that, hey, here's a kid going to play quarterback at Michigan. I mean, It didn't happen, but for a minute there I'm thinking, hey, this would be cool if he showed off.
All right, let's go to Class 5A now. Start with the girls' side. And really no surprise, Thunder Ridge taking on Highlands Ranch, the championship game. A little bit of a surprise, the fact that Grandview wasn't able to make it. But these two teams, Neil, they know each other very, very well. But what was surprising is just how much the Grizzlies were able to dominate a Falcon team that was previously unbeaten in the state of Colorado.
Exactly. I mean, Highlands Ranch was a clear favorite. Had not lost a game in Colorado all year, beat them during the regular season. But Thunder Ridge winning is one thing. The way Thunder Ridge won, I think, is quite another. I mean, they just owned them. Double figures pretty much the whole way, dominated them. Highlands Ranch had a bunch of turnovers. Looked timid from the perimeter, really. And I think Karen Jaraki, the Falcons coach, was like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Well, she's been in many of those games. Obviously, it's a Falcon team, I believe, has won 7 state championships.
Since 2000, they've combined for 11.
Yeah.
7 by Highlands Ranch.
Yeah.
I mean, and 14 as a Continental League since 2000. That's insane.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think Denver East, Legacy, and Broomfield.
That's it.
Over the last decade and a half, the only 3 non-Continental League teams to win a state championship. And Neil's right. You look at what they were able to do in that game. I think 23 turnovers they forced. They out-rebounded the Falcons on the glass, forced them to just 33% shooting in the contest. And it's a Thunder Ridge team, Neil, that was there last year. Obviously, they got beat by Broomfield. It was a disappointing end. Then they lost in the regular season to Grandview, lost in the regular season to Highlands Ranch. What do they do in the semis and finals?
Beat both of them with another new coach, too. I mean, Matthew's been there since, I think, 2001, an assistant since 2003, and took over, and you got to give him credit. I mean, exactly what you said. He lost to Grandview and they lost to Highlands Ranch. What did they do? They turned around and beat him in the 2 most important games of the year. The Grandview win, for me, was considerable because if you watch the girls' game, listen, we don't get many athletes with some skill and some polish like Michaela Oniwari. End of story.
She's only a junior. I mean, it feels like she's been around for ages. Of course, she was doing this essentially as a freshman.
Her career marks already are considerable.
Yeah.
But she made a play in the semifinals. The ball got flicked. No, at the Coliseum in grade 8. The ball got flicked to like 3/4 court. She outruns this kid who was pretty fast to get it, grabs it, dribbles the length of the floor, the rest of the length of the floor, left-handed, in between every defender, got a left-handed layup.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there watching them going, wow.
Well, she's a very good trackster as well, and I guess Patty Childress in the years past could never convince her to come out to volleyball, but can you imagine what kind of volleyball player she would be too?
And well, for me, if she concentrated on track, Jackie Joyner, somebody like that. I mean, somebody that can, a female who can legitimately run and jump and turn and stop and is strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's a sweetheart, too, and very intelligent as well.
Yeah, we've had Michaela on the program before, and she's going to be back. And, again, that means that Grandview will be a state championship contender again coming up next year. But, again, Thunder Ridge getting their 4th state championship, first since 2005 when Abby Weiner was around. By the way, Abby was in the building last night. Always good to see Abby, good friend of ours.
She's married to Jimmy Bartolotta.
That's right, from Heritage.
Abby won 3 championships. Jimmy won 1. They both graduated in 05, and for me, I had a little blurb about it in the paper because I forgot about it. At the end of the 05 school year, they were both, my male and female student athletes of the year. Now they're
pretty
married.
Good choices.
Think they're kids if they have kids.
Right.
Will be looked upon as like, well, you're going to play something.
Right. Well, and it's one of those things you said you had them as student athletes of the year. Yeah. Look at where they both went to college. Jimmy went to
Duke and MIT.
And Duke for
You know how many kids who hoop at MIT? I don't.
No. Absolutely not. Again, congratulations there to Thunderidge. All right, boys side, Overland getting their second consecutive state championship. A couple of bumps in the middle of the season for Overland, but there's no question Danny Fisher's team was the clear-cut favorite.
I was there the night that they lost to Grandview at home. They were listless. Lost 53-50. After that, it's like a light switch came on, man. They just took off. And for me, particularly defense, if you look in the annals, the great defensive teams, like for me, when Chauncey Billups was a sophomore and a junior, George was great defensively, in addition to having Chauncey. Overland is about as good defensively as I've seen in a couple of decades, for sure.
Yeah, and of course starts with big Deron Davis in the middle. But listen, Deron picks up his third personal foul just seconds into the second quarter. Eagle Crest creeps back into that game. It's 3 points at halftime, but then Overland doing what good teams do. Boy, they just extended in the opening minutes of the third.
They recovered. Trailblazers recovered. When he picked up his second foul, I thought Coach Danny Fisher was going to implode. He was livid. But the depth of that team, I mean, not only did they have the big man to be great defensively in the paint, and I'd like to have $1 for every shot that Deron discouraged, not blocked, just discouraged. I'd be
Doesn't
playing
show up in
Pebble
the stat
Beach.
sheet.
Right. Now, but as a team, they could also go side to side on a lane and as well have the speed and quickness and athleticism to defend on the perimeter or extend the defense to half court, three-quarter, or full court. Not a lot of teams can do that, man.
Yeah. Where does Overland sit now when you talk about all-time teams for the last 20, maybe 30 years? Neil, you've been here a long time. The back-to-back wins and the team that Danny Fisher put together.
Well, as you know, it's easy to get carried away with the moment. It's like, this team, blah, 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 blah. But look, the facts are these. They've won back-to-back. When you win multiple championships, the consideration is real. Now, from a matchup standpoint, these guys can match up with pretty much anybody over the past 30 years because they do have the big man. They do have the athleticism at forward. They do have the smarts and the know-how at guard. Plus, for me, their six-man, the Padilla Wang, this kid, I don't know how he doesn't start, but, man, if we had a six-man of the year vote, he'd get mine.
Yeah.
This guy had a vicious follow-up dunk, another dunk. He dunked 3 times in a row in like the Sweet 16 or whatever it was. Terrific defender. He had 16 rebounds last night. The Overland's complete in that regard. Terrific starting five, some people off the bench, and then, I think Danny's an underrated. Danny knows what's going on.
Yeah.
He was an excellent multi-sport student athlete at Hinckley. He understands what's happening.
Yeah, won a basketball state championship back in 1994. Again, congratulations to Overland. We'd be remiss not to mention Colby Ross, terrific, only a junior for Eagle Crest. He's going to be back next year and will be one of the top players in the state of Colorado. All right, before we go, Neil, the Cherry Creek job is opening up. Mike Brookhart, after many, many years, is deciding to retire. I know that's going to be a very sought-after position.
Not necessarily retiring. He's going to coach again. It'll be at a different school. He wants to change his scenery. He made that clear, and Creek was cool with it. But this is a guy who also doubled as a football coach for multiple seasons, and we're talking Cherry Creek here, not,
biggest school in the
nowhere,
state. Biggest
school by far, all the eyes and stuff like that. But he wants to do something else. Now, this is a job that is going to attract significant, major interest, perhaps as much as we've seen in several decades. People want this Cherry Creek job. The bidding has begun. I know the resumes are starting to pile up, and the guys who are going to pare them down and do the interviewing, they have their hands full, for sure. Yeah,
Jason Wilkins, of course, the athletic director there at Cherry Creek High School, who does have basketball experience
and is a candidate
himself, and is a candidate. And Ryan Silva, the principal, obviously have a decision to make. All right, Neil, always enjoy getting you in here the day after a championship game. We got to drag you out of bed, but appreciate you coming in.
I'll expect a check.
Yes, check is going to be in the mail. Don't cash it, though, for a couple years.
Gotcha. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's Neil Devlin, the one, the only Neil Devlin from the Denver Post. All right, we'll take one final timeout. We'll bring it back, wrap it up after this on the Xfinity Sports Report.